afternoon, everyone. This is Tony from her Homestead Skills, and today I would like to touch on a few subjects, and starting off with the prevalent condition of taboo subjects, things that one is not allowed to discuss or one shouldn't discuss in polite company. I don't agree with that. Okay, perhaps the only taboo subject I would think would be things like hate speech and, things that are perverted. Other than that, I think everything else is pretty much opinions should be heard. I don't think that any opinion should be shut down if it is reasonable, if it is wanting to open up a discussion on certain matters, or wanting just to share an opinion on a particular subject, whether it be political, whether it be economical. Now, let's face it, we're all dealing with serious economic issues at this point, and ignoring them and pretending that the subject is taboo will not make it get any better and will not make it go away. But perhaps discussing some of these things might help some individuals on how to deal with some of the issues that they're dealing with economically. Perhaps not, but putting ideas out on the table certainly never hurt anybody. And on that fact, I guess I want to go back to Canada's, I guess you could call it, quite successful farmer and trucker protests. And they were successful in the sense that they did actually achieve an end, whatever that end is. We may not know, but they did have a successful protest. They did reach their desired function. It may have gone on too long. It may have disturbed a whole bunch of people. It may not have achieved what they themselves wanted to achieve, but they did have their protest. And they had a lot of support and a lot of flack, and perhaps they went too far in some areas. Perhaps they didn't go far enough. But what we're finding, and of course one of the questions today is, did they go too far? Did the government go too far in reaction? And that is something that is being worked out right now. There's an inquiry into it, and my opinion, which is strictly my opinion, is that they probably both went a little too far. But you still have to question as why the event occurred in the first place. And why these events seem to be occurring, why protests seem to be occurring more and more worldwide. We have the Netherlands, where the farmers are protesting. I suspect they still are, but we're not hearing anything about it. We had an attempt from U.S. farmers to mount a protest. It didn't really go too far, but that's fine. They did mount their attempt at a protest and took it as far as they were able to. And now we have, when it comes to farmers and truckers, Brazil is up in arms, and they've mounted a protest, and they are bigger and will likely be much more effective than what they have been in Canada. They have over 4 million farmers in Brazil, whereas Canada, I think you're lucky if you have 200,000. And obviously only a small percentage of each one will participate in these types of events, but even a small percentage of over 4 million is pretty large. And then you have, and there are different reasons for that protest. There are different reasons for the Canadian protests. There are different reasons for the one in the Netherlands. And then we have the Iranian protests. And we had Sri Lanka that has come and gone. It's been dealt with. But the Iranian one is still on the go, and hundreds of people have died. I mean, theirs is a little trickier than most, simply because the regime is brutal enough to not care about human life at all. And they've arrested well over 1,000 people. So that one is ugly in a different way, but it doesn't appear to be backing down. So what is causing all this unrest, and what effect will it have? Well, for us who are prepping, food shortages, inability to grow food, inability to get food to market. Isn't that why we're all prepping? So why is a subject like all these protests that are going on around the world taboo, political? They're only political in the sense that they're happening because of politics. But it isn't politics that's creating those situations. It's something much deeper. Whether it's the fact that people are just being ignored, or that they recognize a problem that is not being addressed, and they want to make their voices heard and have these problems resolved. And it appears that though the only way their voices are heard is to rise up in mass numbers and effect change. Difficult times ahead. In Canada and the US, hyperinflation. Terrible winter ahead of us. Terrible housing market, where house prices went through the roof. I don't know about the US, but they certainly went through the roof in Ontario. And they're going to fall just as badly with the interest rates. And don't kid yourself, Canada will follow suit. And they have done. Every time the US raises their interest rates, Canada follows suit, if not ahead of the game. And we're expecting another rate increase in December as well, and in November. So, recession, depression. If your children are not accustomed to hardship now, maybe it's time you taught them some. Let them know how difficult life may become. Prepare them so that they're not totally in the dark about what may happen. Now, that's not to say that all of that is negative and it has to be all bad. Maybe people just have to be a little bit better prepared. Make sure you do have enough food so that your children don't go hungry. But there are other things that maybe they can do without. They don't need the latest and the greatest phones when they're only 10 years old. So anyway, and I've known parents to give their children phones, and well, it's one way to keep tabs on them. They always know where they are if they can track them by their phone, but they should know where they are anyway. Okay, so should you continue prepping? As much as you can. Me, I'm a little bit tired of it. Canning isn't my whole life. I have more of a life than just canning. I have more thoughts than just what to can the next day. My garden is pretty much done now, and yeah, it's there's no place to garden for me this time of year. Planted my garlic, and that is the end of my garden. And think about it, all these countries in wars and in protests. Oh yes, yeah. Let's not forget Russia and Ukraine. What happened with the food supply and the gas supply coming from those countries? All of this affects us all. It's true that Europe has gone through serious devastation due to the Ukrainian-Russian war. And don't know what the outcome will be of this Brazilian uprising or the Iranian one. And I've heard recently that Saudi Arabia has information that Iran plans to bomb them. So, and North Korea, the world is going mad. Doesn't mean we have to be terrified, just means we have to think about what's going on. Don't shut your eyes to it. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. It exists, it's happening. Do what you can to lessen the severity in your life. I don't think I have much more to add to that. Short and sweet. Hope that doesn't sound too negative, but not everything in life is sweet. Okay, this is Tony from Her Homestead Skills. Hope you enjoyed this little segment, and please feel free to comment and let us know what you think and what you find concerning, and perhaps, you know, we're all dealing with the same things. One way or another, we're all facing the same things. So hopefully we're all here to help each other and support each other. Okay?